Here we go. Some people are already in here. The interesting thing is, how did you get in here? Oh, there I am. I'm live. How about that? Hello, everybody. I want to just check on something as we get started here. Good morning. Whoops, morning. It's still morning here. Afternoon from New Jersey. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And as they're coming in, not everybody's here yet. It's funny how this works, when you're using the Google Hangouts, that sometimes people, it takes them a minute or two for everybody to come in. So all I'm going to do is just patiently wait for just a second. It's not that I'm trying to penalize the people that are already in. It's just that the people are coming in. And so I think we are at a point now where, okay. I think most of the people who are rocking and rolling in here are here. So let's get started. Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad. I guess I can take my cheaters off now. And I want to thank you all for joining me here on this free webinar. I really want to, I feel like sometimes I am not paying attention to what's going on. For years, I've heard complaints from people about the difficulty in measuring ROI from things like trade shows and social media and trade advertising and things like that. And you know what? In my speeches, in my consulting, when I'm coaching people and things like that, I have very often addressed the topic and shown people, is that the correct phrase? Showed people how to do that. How to measure ROI, and it's like one of those things where I've never done a webinar. I've never done anything like a webinar. I've never written an article or a blog post or anything like that. And and a couple of weeks ago, it just all of a sudden hit me like a big thumbstick hit me on the side of the head and said, hey, idiot, do a webinar. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a webinar. And that's going to actually, that I hope ends up being a win-win for everybody. So what I'm going to do without further ado is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to find the PowerPoint that I have for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and kick that up there so that, I am, let's see, present to everybody. So hopefully you're all seeing that right now. And we're going to get started right into this thing. So thank you for joining me. I call this Stop the Stupid Metrics. I'll get into what I mean by all this in just a second. But essentially, what I want to do is be able to show you how to measure real return on investment from any marketing tool. And you'll notice that I've got the chat going on here now. One little funky thing about Google Hangouts is that the chat tends to be, I'm going to say 10 seconds behind for me, the presenter. You guys see it live, but for the presenter, the chat kind of comes in about 10 seconds behind. So if you ask a question, which I certainly encourage you to do, it takes me a couple of seconds to see it, then that's what's going on. Or if I don't answer it right away, I'm going to have a Q&A section at the end, and I encourage you to hold on, and if I don't get to it, then I will try to see it and answer it later on, and that good stuff there. All right. So a couple of quick logistics here for you on this, and that is that this is being recorded. And there will be an email, should be an automatic email that goes out to you right after this is over with the replay link, so that if you want to watch it again or share it with somebody else, you are certainly welcome to do that. In addition, and I promised this to everybody that was registered for today, at the end of the program, I'm going to give you a link that you can go to where you can download the formula. I'm going to show you a formula or equation, whatever you want to call it, or chart, or spreadsheet. I'm going to show you my formula that I teach everybody and I use in measuring ROI from marketing tools, both in measuring them afterwards as well as in predicting ROI and projecting ROI in advance. You will be able to download the visuals from today, all that sort of stuff. And the only catch to all of this, getting this free webinar, is that I am going to show you I'm going to have a very brief commercial about something going on, and I hope, and I'm very excited to share this with you, and I hope that you will be too. But I promise it will be brief, and for the most part, this is pure content, and that's what this is all about. Now, a long time ago, many years ago, I'm going to say 100 years ago, I don't know, there was a department store called Wanamaker's, and I think it was in Philadelphia. Anybody who knows that, feel free to pop that in there and confirm it for me. But John Wanamaker, who was the owner, has been attributed this quote. Nobody can really actually prove that he said it, but he has been the most attributed for this quote, where that he said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. See, and that is the common problem that you run into with marketing. Now, in sales, for example, we know, when we go out and we make a sale, we know that we made money, right? And we can probably go back and connect the dots between how much it cost us to get that sale, for example, and the steps up to that sale. But because it's a sale, we've got the money, right? Now, marketing has kind of become this very fuzzy word over the years, where you often hear this, that, oh gosh, yeah, we do marketing, because we know we have to do marketing, but gee whiz, we're just never able to measure the results from marketing. And I want to establish right up front that the people, and I don't want to beat you up, because in most cases it's because you've never been taught. All right. And there's a confusion with the word marketing. See, to me, marketing, when you are marketing, you must be able to measure ROI. If you are promoting your products or services and you are unable to prove ROI from that, that's not marketing. I'll just say it's advertising. Okay. And to me, advertising is kind of for people and companies who don't know marketing, because marketing to me must be able to connect the dots between money spent and ROI that is generated at the end. And but in so many tools that are used out there, companies have a very, very difficult time proving that. Now, let me show you some stats whoops, that one jumped off there. Okay, like for example, this was, you can see this is from eMarketer.com. This is from last month, the 2016 State of Social Marketing Report from eMarketer.com, and a company called Simply Measured. All right, now Simply Measured is a company that helps businesses use social media in their marketing. And here are the results. Thanks, Stephen. Wanamaker's was in Philly, so I think I got that right. What are the challenges faced by social media professionals in North America in April of 2016? And by far, the biggest problem is measuring ROI. Now, these are supposed to be the professionals, and they are having a hard time measuring ROI. So the question is, if these are the pros and they can't measure ROI, well, where's the failure here? All right. Does it mean that you can't measure marketing or you can't measure social media? No, That's completely bogus. Of course you can do it. But why have they failed? Well, let's think about a few of the other examples, not just social media. But like, for example, trade advertising in magazines. I often see ads like this ad in trade magazines. And if you look at it, okay, for the last 71 years, we've made our mission to provide you with precisely engineered products. Our goal is your peace of mind and to create exceptional experience for generations to come. Welcome to our ever-growing family, GMB. Well, okay, how do you measure ROI from that ad? Now, that's a well-designed ad. Somebody paid to have that designed, and somebody paid to have that inserted in a magazine. It's automotive. I think it's an automotive aftermarket ad that I pulled out from somewhere. And so how is this measured? See, and if you can't connect the dots between your investment and true ROI, well, then what have the professionals over the years, what have they done to come up with a way to say, oh yeah, here's what you get for your investment, right? Well, it's come up to things like impressions, readership, or as cleverly offered by and if somebody loses me or something like that, would somebody else just write them a message that says, probably the best thing to do is to log out and log back in again, because there's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, so talking about like pass-alongs, I think this is a very, very clever method of creating a metric that appears to be valuable. So pass-along, as we know, it's like, okay, so if this company advertised in some magazine, well, they're told, okay, the readership of this magazine is, say, I don't know, 25,000 people. But then the magazine comes back and says, well, but you know what? Our average magazine actually is handed off, and 2.3 other people actually read this magazine, in addition to the one who was originally sent to. And so then they say, so in reality, instead of 5,000 people, you've really got actually 100,000 people doing that. And that's a very clever statistic, right? What about at trade shows, for example? We often see companies who say that they measure their success by traffic in their booths, or they measure success by the giveaways that they have, or literature that they take to the show and they pass out, and I put in quotes here, follow-ups. And the reason why I put that in quotes is because sometimes, or often, you will see companies who, they will meet with somebody in the booth. They'll have a polite conversation with them, and then they'll say, oh, we'll follow, we'll send you some information after the show. And, they might collect their business card or scan their badge or something like that. And then they just send out brochures after the show. They then, maybe pass the names on to salespeople out in the field or something like that. And often the salespeople, come back and they say, that was not a lead. That was a terrible lead. That it was not qualified, didn't want anybody to follow up with them or anything like that. And so we get into this funny definition of success at a trade show by using these types of metrics. Okay. And social media, again, we get into, what is it going to be? Likes, likes on our webpage. People have, give shares out, people friend us, or they fans, things like that. Let me share with you another thing that came from, this came from that same company that did the survey before, and they recently published this publication, all right, and they titled it 5 Metrics to Measure Your Brand on Social. So here's the professionals who are saying, this is how you should measure. This is how you can prove your success and your ROI from social media. So the first one is reach. All right. And if you can't read this, well, then I'll read this for you. Essentially, it just, it's what is reach? It's the total number of users who have seen your brand post during a report period. Apparently, they think that's a metric. Okay. So they've seen your brand post. Can you cash a check on that? No, you cannot cash a check on that. Share of voice is the second one that they list. The relative percentage of a conversation or topic that mentions a specific brand in relation total posts, I guess in relation to total posts within the same conversation, or posts that mention competitive brands. That is very, very, yeah, I agree, Alan. The slide is fuzzy. It was a fuzzy picture that came out of this. I apologize, but I'm reading it to you so that you can, that's the one part. But share of voice. I mean, does that make sense as being something you can cash a check on? Nope. Sentiment, the attitude or perception towards a brand or topic, the sentiment that they have, and then finally, earned mentions. Earned mentions. What are earned mentions? I don't really get that at all. That again, it's the same definition as before: the attitude or perception toward a brand or topic. Now I'm sorry, there was one more: an engagement, any interaction with a brand's profile's content. Replies, comments, shares, and likes, things like that. Here's the problem with this stuff: is that none of those are metrics that connect to return on investment. They are fuzzy metrics. They are they're just metrics that are made up by people to have some way of saying, yeah, this is how we measure success by using these different types of tools. And to me, it's like this: if I have a prospect out there somewhere, and I want to get them to come to, to ultimately give me money, as a result of some type of marketing campaign that I have. Well, if I go out and I use something like a social media for this one here, and I get likes and I get earned mentions and things like that, does that connect directly to the end result? The answer is no, it does not connect. There's no way I can connect it to the end result. There might be something out at the end, but maybe at a trade show, if all I'm doing is measuring traffic or things like that, or maybe with a trade advertising or a blog or some other type of tool, that we connect with people through these different types of tools. But then we have no way of knowing how to connect that to the bottom line. So what ends up happening with these marketers? It becomes hope marketing or prayer marketing, where they are just really, really hoping that the needle moves at some point, and the only thing that they can possibly say that might have made that needle move would have been that particular tool. And that's just not good enough. Hope marketing is not good enough. It's like I had a client who was doing very, very generic advertising in a magazine, and I said, look, we need to fix this. We need to make this better, and we need to do a better job of connecting the dots between the results. And wait a minute, completely unreadable. I would just say, I'm okay, folks. I am also following this on a different computer, and it looks fine. I would say log out, log back in, and see how it looks. Then there's nothing I can do about it from my end. I'm sorry. So, just do that. So, so the people are saying that there's a reality that that there is a connection when these are just made up metrics. Okay, just made up metrics. So here's how I look at it: that the reason they don't successfully connect the dots is because the only way a marketing tool can be measured is if it's meaningfully measurable in the first place. And oh, hey, Seth, that's a good point. You know what? If the best browser to use is Chrome for this, just in case anybody wants to know that. So so number one, let's take a look at this. All right, number one, in order to make any tool measurable, number one is that the tool that you are using, the advertisement that you're using, the trade show exhibit that you're using, the social media tool that you are using, how you are using it, it must be response driven. Okay. It must be response driven, not just announcements out there. Oh, here's an announcement about our new product. No, it must be response driven. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. And the metric for that response must have a clear connection to the next step in the relationship building process. So like when we talk about what is the next step, so for example, if we now look at it that there is a path that goes from the prospect to us, and the path is not often very straight. It's usually meanders and serpentines around and things like that. And we also know that there are often multiple contacts that need to be made to ultimately get that person to become a customer. So the first step is that this prospect is out somewhere out on the planet, right? And so the first step is the S stands for a source of the prospect. So is the source going to be LinkedIn? Is it going to be Facebook? Is it going to be a trade show? Is it going to be a trade magazine or something like that? It doesn't matter what it is. If you can connect with that person, through this source, that would be the first step in the relationship building process. And so now, once you are in that step right there, then you ask yourself, what is the next step that is going to take me down this path? Okay, not away from this path, but down this path. So it has to be a meaningful connection with the prospect, so that they go from a prospect to a lead. And for those of you that don't know, I believe there is a difference between a prospect and a lead. And essentially, it's very simple. A prospect is somebody who fits the profile of your target market, and a lead is a prospect who fits the profile of your target market, and they have indicated an interest. So those of you that do lead scoring, you're familiar with that, because that's exactly what lead scoring is all about, is that you find somebody who fits the profile of your target market, and then you get them to raise their hand and show a level of interest. And once you do that, they are now a lead. And so the main thing when it comes to any marketing tool is you want to get them on this sort of conveyor belt, right? So you contact them through some type of source, some type of prospect source, and then via that prospect source, you are getting them to say, yes, I want to connect with you further. And so but it's a meaningful connection. It's something that you can not only measure, but you can also manage. So this is very, very important to know. So when we go back to that other one I was showing you, where you see if we're connecting with people, but they are not on that line somewhere, if they are not on the conveyor belt where along this line is where the person needs to be. But if we're sending them out here and then we don't have a meaningful connection to the end, and if there's no way I can manage that connection to the end, then that's a problem, right? That means that it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, for me to measure that. But I can measure it if I can go along this path here and know what the next step is. So it's pretty simple. Every marketing tool must have a call to action that takes them to a meaningful next step. All right. And there is a formula or equation or whatever you want to call it. Now, this is it. And I'm going to go through it very quickly here. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to take you through an example. And I'm going to show you how this works. And then, of course, like I said, at the end, I'll give you a link that you can go to and you can download this spreadsheet and use it for yourself. Okay. So it's very, very simple. It doesn't take a lot to know how to measure this stuff, as long as you can answer these questions. Well, number one is we start with, okay, total number of prospects. How many people are you exposed to who fit the profile of your target market? And then you get into, okay, what is the percentage of those who then say, I have an interest in your product or service? And that brings you to, okay, so that's total qualified leads. Now, I'm kind of approaching this from how do I project ahead what my ROI is going to be? But if I know the answers at the end, I can fill those in and it'll help me get, so like for example, if I collect leads say at a trade show, all right, then I can literally start at this line and then work my way down. So now I have my total qualified leads. I've got those. Now we probably are not going to close them all. And so there's only going to be a certain percentage of those people that we close, right? And so we ask ourselves, what is that closing percentage? And we multiply that times the qualified leads. That gives us the total number of customers that we would expect to get as a result of this many qualified leads. Then the next line in the formula is, what is our average lifetime value per customer? We're going to talk about this a little bit more later on. So then we multiply that times the number of customers. That gives us our total lifetime of gross revenues that we would expect to generate as a result of that particular tool. Then we can even go farther by saying, all right, what is the profit margin? What is our typical profit margin for this particular product? So then we can project our long-term gross profit from there. So that's how much money we can expect to make profit-wise, and then we subtract the expenses. How much did it cost us to get all of those leads from the beginning? And we subtract that, and that gives us our projected dollar ROI. Now, if we want, we can go even a step farther and say, all right, well, what percentage of our revenue is the ROI? And we just simply divide this number by the long-term gross profit, and that gives us a percentage ROI. Now we get into something very cool, and like I say, I'm going to expand on this a little bit more when I get into these individually and I show you what I'm talking about. But then we get into this idea of this acquisition cost per customer, and this is a number that a lot of times people misunderstand, and it's really, really important to know this. And that is essentially where we take the expenses and we divide it by the number of new customers. And so now we know how much did it cost us to get each one of those customers, and then we can compare that with what our budgeted acquisition cost is per customer. And when we do this, we can now prove ROI, or we can prove that we didn't make any ROI. And so there are three critical questions that marketers need to know the answer to that are going to help fill out that formula. But first, I'm going to give you that quick commercial that I was telling you about. As soon as, after I get done with this, we'll get into the three questions, and I will show you with an actual formula, how we can use that to measure our ROI. Now, I got to tell you how this got started. I mean, not only was I thinking about creating this marketing ROI webinar for you guys, but I'm also in the process of developing some other new products, some other new webinars that are actually going to be, for fee webinars that I was planning on, I've been planning on and working on and outlining and things like that. But you know what? I'm like anybody else. I have a list to do, but then I tend to, if I don't have a deadline done, or if I don't have something like where I'm saying, oh, I really need to get this done by this date, then you know what? It just keeps going off a little bit longer and a little bit longer and stuff like that. And I thought, how can I make myself put these things together? And I came up with this idea that I combined with this free webinar for you guys today. And I'm real excited about it. I think it's a win-win situation, a win-win opportunity for you and for me. And so here's what the deal is that in August, I'm going to put on 4 marketing webinars once a week for 4 weeks. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to record live these marketing webinars that are going to be valuable to you, and that are going to be products for me. And so here they are very quickly. Okay, on August 4th, it's going to be content marketing for B2B. Content marketing is a very, very powerful tool for B2B, but most B2B companies don't use it as well as they possibly can. It's very, very common, for companies to use it. And, even if you're not B2B, but most of you are, but even if you're not, it's an extremely powerful tool. And so I'm going to get into, in that webinar, what is content marketing? What are the different types of content marketing that are best for B2B? How do you get started using content marketing? what information should your content marketing include, and how do you create content marketing that rises above the noise and gets you return on investment, right? That's the important thing. All right. A week later, on August 11th, I'm gonna put on a program called Put Your Marketing on Autopilot. I'm going to teach you how to design the new marketing funnel. And that is very, very powerful, okay? I'm going to teach you how to find prospects, get them to raise their hands, much like I'm talking about here today. That's how you connect the dots afterwards. But I'm also going to show you how to automate parts of this system by using things like autoresponders, how to set up a autoresponder, and a couple of other tools. And then I'm also going to teach how to use this new marketing funnel to go beyond SEO and be much more successful with that. August 18th, I'm going to talk about creating an uncopyable attachment with your customers. Boy, wouldn't you love to have that where nobody can ever take them away from you, right? How to create golden handcuffs on your customers, how to create attachments where they never want to leave, and how to be the club everybody wants to be a member of. See, that's what you want, is you want them, and you want to make them rock stars so that they never want to leave you at all, right? On August 25th, I'm going to do an updated version of a product I created a couple of years ago called Breakthrough Referrals. But it's going to be an updated, more current version, how to develop a referral strategy you and your staffers will want to promote. Most companies, in my last survey, 73.4% of companies do not have a formal referral strategy. And I'm going to help you do that, because a lot of times for us, it's just uncomfortable to ask for referrals. In my strategy, you don't ask for referrals, but you get more than you ever had before. And how to get your customers to want to refer you, and how to incorporate branding tools that are designed to anchor your name and trigger your customers to remember you when the moment of truth happens. And the moment of truth is when the customer has an opportunity to refer you, okay? And when that moment of truth happens, they think about you, and then they want to refer you. And here's the dealio, okay? Very quickly, here's the dealio. 4 live webinars. They will be recorded. They will be live. You can attend them. They will also be recorded. If you can't attend all of them or any of them, so what? They'll be recorded. They'll be archived for you forever, okay? You will also be able to get the audio from any of the webinars and download those and listen to them on your smartphone or whatever you got to use. You'll get all the visuals for download. All right. And the truth of the matter is that right now I am planning on these to be sold for a minimum $127 each, minimum $508. I think that maybe 1 or 2 of them will actually be higher than $127 because I think they'll be very, very valuable, stuff like that. But for you guys, $297. $297 gets you all 4 webinars, all the recordings, downloaded, audio downloads, all the visuals. It'll be yours forever. And but you know what? I'm going to give you a bonus. All right. Now, for those of you that are listening, those of you that are watching this webinar today, if you buy from this webinar today, I'm going to throw a bonus webinar in on September 1st, my updated version of Vicious Productivity on how to be super productive, how to impact your results tremendously, how to recognize productivity traps that are sabotaging you, how to develop a workable system that rockets your effectiveness, the single most important factor in being productive, and tools to help manage your productivity. So in other words, you guys, and only you guys that are sitting in on this thing right now, are going to be able to get 5 webinars, and you will get them for only $297. And I don't know, what is 5 times 127? So I'm going to put up a little link for you guys over there on the right hand side, so you can you can click on that if you want to write this down for later on and sign up later on. But remember, if you sign up from this webinar, you'll get that bonus. If you wait till after the web, like after tomorrow, I'll say, then that bonus will be gone. So okay, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program and do that. So the 3 critical questions. So what are these 3 critical questions? Well, number 1 is, what is your closing percentage? See, this is important to know, especially when you're doing projections, because if you go into doing a marketing tool, if you go into a trade show and you say, look, we're spending $20,000 to go to a trade show, and can we project how many, can we project whether we're going to, how many leads we need, or can we project, how much, profit we have to have in order to justify, not just pay for the show. I hate it when people say, oh, we just want to, sell enough to pay for the show. That's baloney. This is a marketing tool. It should be making you a profit. So if you know your closing percentage, and I'll show you in a minute why that's so important when I go through this, but if you know whether your closing percentage is 10% or 20% or 50% or something like that, well, then you can very accurately project your revenues in advance. If do you know the lifetime value of a customer? Because the fact of the matter is that that's how you need to look at marketing tools, is what is the lifetime value of a customer, because that marketing tool is generating that lifetime value. It's not how much do you make off of them in the first sale. It's how much do you make off of them lifetime. And that's really an important metric to know. And a lot of companies don't know the answer to that. I'll show you in the example again pretty quickly. And then the third question is, how much are you willing to spend to acquire a new customer? We need to know the answer to this question, and I'll explain why when I go through it. And here we're going to start to go through this. So what I need to do first is I need to change my screen share, and you see me right now, but I'm going to very quickly move away from me, and I'm going to move into the spreadsheet that I have for you. And this is the spreadsheet that you will be able to download at the end of this program. So let's start, and I'm gonna and it's all ready to go. So like let's start up here in the total number of prospects box, and I'm gonna say that from some marketing tool, and it doesn't matter. Like we'll say trade advertising or something like that. Let's say that I'm going to get 500 total prospects that connect to me after, I have some type of call to action that tells them I'm going to offer them something, and I'm going to say, okay, you can get this white paper, this free video, this free cheat sheet, this free checklist, or something like that by simply going to this link, going to this URL. And then they click that and they go there. So now, in a sense, they have basically raised their hands and said that they have a little bit of a level of interest, but mainly it's just a level of interest for your call to action. Now, of course, you need to connect with them and follow up with them and say, all right, then determine how qualified they are. If you go to a trade show, for example, you can say, all right, well, let's say that geez, I don't know, anybody who crosses the line to come into your booth, you could say that they are prospects. Let's say 500 people cross the line, and then you have conversations with them, and let's say out of those 500 people, well, in reality, only a percentage of them fit the profile. But more importantly, we were able to have a conversation, and we'll say that 50% of the people who came into our booth, are qualified leads. Let's say it's social media. I'm going to show you an example of what I did and how that connects the dot in just a minute. But social media is the same thing. But in this case, so we have 250 qualified leads. Now, first question, what is my closing percentage? And this is very, very important. Do I close 10% of my leads? Do I close 50% of my leads? If I don't already know that answer, then I need to do my best to try to figure it out, and by tracking our sales in the future and start to understand what our closing percentage is. Now, if you don't know what your closing percentage is, then you either have to try to make an educational guess, or you could go by the national average. Well, the national average is basically 10% in B2B companies across the board, all industries. The national average is basically 10%. But you know what I think? I think if I had personal conversations with people at a trade show, which I'm using as an example right here, if I have personal conversations with them and I'm able to say, well, you know what, these 250 people are pretty well qualified. Well, let's say I close 25%. All right, I don't know. So, so what is going to happen here? Whoop, what happened? 25%. That didn't multiply. It's supposed to multiply. I'm going to change that to 20%, because then I know that this is supposed to be 50. So somehow my spreadsheet messed up there. So let's say, okay, so that tells me that I have a total of 50 customers, and let's say that my lifetime value for those 50 customers is, I don't know, we'll say $20,000, over their lifetime. Okay. And so what does that do? That tells me that I've got a total lifetime value from this marketing tool of $1 million. All right. And then just for grins, we'll see that my profit margin is 35%. Okay. So now this should say that my projected long-term gross profit is $350,000, right? So, and then let's say my expenses for the trade show were, I don't know, I'm going to make it big, 45, or big enough, $45,000. Okay, so basically my projected ROI from this is $305,000 out of the long-term gross profit that I make, and that is 87.14% percentage ROI. And then my cost per customer, which is the $305,000, or I'm sorry, the $45,000 divided by the 50 customers, says that I am it costs me $900 per customer. Now let's say, and I would write this down earlier, let's say that I'm willing to spend, $1,500, on a customer. Well, now I can compare these two right here and say, yep, that was worth it. Now here's where, see, like for example, and I hear this a lot also with not just trade shows, but other tools as well, where people will say, wow, the cost per lead was $137, or $167, and that's just too high. And then I'll say, well, okay, well, number one, what's your closing rate? If I give you 10 leads, at a cost of, if you say it's $167, that's what, it's $1,670 for 10 leads. If you close 20% of those 10, that's 20% of the 10, and how much worth, see, and then it gets down to say, okay, so how much are you willing to spend for somebody? Now, I've had clients who you sit down and you say, all right, the lifetime value of a customer is $20,000. So I'm willing to spend, $1,500 to get somebody who is going to return $20,000 to me on average. All right. But if you don't know that number, well, then you can't really say, oh yeah, this really, really worked well. Okay. So this is very, very important to understand your closing percentage, understand your average lifetime value, and understand your budgeted acquisition cost per customer. If you know those numbers, then you will be able to spend all day measuring and projecting ROI, as long as you follow those steps of what is the next step in the relationship building process and creating a CTA for that. Okay. All right, let's go back to the visuals again. There I am. Don't know why I have to go through this, but apparently I do. But you got to see me a little bit more. So, okay. So see, that's the formula. And when you get that, you can fill out the numbers yourself. And if you have any questions, obviously I'm here to help. If you have questions about any of that stuff, I'll be able to help you with that. So, So now let me show you something here. When I talked about social media, for example, and just as one example was that I used Facebook advertising to promote this webinar. Okay, and I want you to look at this. Okay, I only promoted it for 7 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 days. All right, starting on the 12th, and or I guess that's 8 days. Looks like it's the 19th today too. So here's what we're looking at now. Here's the ad. Some of you saw this ad. Some of you clicked on this ad, but you notice here. Okay, stop the stupid metrics. Free training. Reserve your spot now. So when you clicked on that, it took you to the landing page that explained what I was going to be talking about today, and then it had a register now button on there, and here's how the numbers worked from this ad. And what I want to point out is that if you look over here on the left side of the screen, it says 21,296 people were reached in the last 8 days. Okay. As a result, there were 1,713 conversions, and that means those are people that I said, click here, go reserve your spot now. And 1,713 people clicked there and went to the landing page, and it cost me a total of $218.64. So you see, so I can take those numbers and I can look at the landing page numbers and things like that. But this tells me, and I will be able to tell when it finally comes to time to do the programs in August, how I did as a result of this. Okay. So as I said before, the only way a marketing tool can be measured is if it's meaningfully measurable in the first place. So when you are looking at working with any type of marketing tool, number one, that's the source. What is the source of the prospects that you are going to be pulling in, or the leads that you're going to be pulling in? What will the next step in that relationship process be over here? And that is how you're going to be able to measure this. All right. Remember, every marketing tool must have a call to action to a meaningful next step. So I said you're going to be able to get the download for the formula. Here it is. The formula is there for you right now that you can download at theadventure.com/forward/marketing-ROI-download. All right. Wait for just a second. And actually, you're going to get an email from me afterwards with that link as well. So you can see that as well as, and then you will also get the link for the replay of this thing, so that if you were unable to get some of the stuff, Hangouts sometimes gets funky. It gets funky with, you love technology, right? 90% of the time it works great. It's, but occasionally it has those glitches. So, okay, so there's a question from Catherine. What if you cannot make one of these scheduled 4 webinars? It's not a problem, Catherine, because every webinar will be recorded, archived, and you will have access to the page that has all 4. Actually, if you sign up, from this webinar, you're actually going to have 5 webinars, right? You get the bonus of the 5th webinar, and you will have access to all 5 forever. You'll be able, and you can share them with your mom and dad, your dog. You can share them with your office or something like that. You will have access. Thank you, Andrew, for okay. So like I say, for right now, you can go to theadventure.com/marketing-ROI download to get the visuals and get the formula. And then I will plug in the replay of this later on. But you will get an automatic email from the system today with the replay. Okay. And just to remind you to to sign up for the 4 webinars, for you the 5, theadventure.com/register-4, and you can sign up right away and get access, and I'll take really, really good care of you when you do that. So with that, if there are any more questions that you have, I'm going to wait here for a second. Joan, yes, your dog might like these. I've got my dog sitting in here as well. He loves them. All right. So, Sarah, would you recommend making a specific landing page on your website so you know these people came from a specific trade show or ad? Yes, 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 yes. You want to have a specific landing page. And that actually, interestingly enough, you already know how to make a landing page, I'm sure, or how to, but, it's like when those of you that clicked the emails that I sent out to register for this webinar, or you clicked on the Facebook ad to register for this webinar, you notice it took you to a specific landing page. All right. And by the way, another big tip for you, that is something that you have to do. That is something you absolutely have to do, is you have to send people to a specific page. Never, ever, ever in any type of advertising or marketing, trade ad, social media, or anything like that, never, ever, ever send them to your homepage. Okay. You send them to your homepage, you have no idea where they came from. Okay. This is measured ROI that I'm talking about, measurable ROI. So that's really, really important. Andrew, you're exactly right. Without that, you will have a hard time with conversions. Now, that is going to be a very important part of one of the webinars that I'm going to be putting on in August, is how to develop a landing page. If you can't do it on your own website, then I will show you a tool that I use all the time. So it'll be very, very valuable for those of you that don't know where your leads are coming from. So let's see what else we got here. We got for social media marketing campaigns, is there a way to measure ROI from the interactions instead of the? It's the same process, Julia. Now, in the social media interactions, the way I look at that is I look at that as a ratio, kind of like an 80-20 ratio, where I am going to have very, very casual social conversations with people. So like for every 5 posts that I make, 4 of them are going to be very casual, just conversations, answering questions, or stepping in and offering an opinion or something like that. And then my 5th one will be something like, oh, hey, you know what I'm doing, maybe you haven't heard, just to let you know that we've got this new product, or is anybody going to a trade show, this particular trade show, or something like that. And then you say, hey, click here and, contact us. Let us know you're going, or click here if you'd like. We've got a new white paper and it's available for everybody. So I do it on a ratio balance. Okay. How is lifetime value calculated for active customers? Hopefully they'll continue buying for years. Yes, 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 Mark, you want them to buy for years. This is if they're an existing customer, then yeah, you want to keep them forever. But for the most part, when we're developing, when we're going out and we're trying to develop new customers, then the way we're able to project ROI is we have to understand that not everybody's going to stay with us for life. If you have people who stay with you for many, many years, well, good for you. I mean, that's awesome, right? But like, for example, I was talking with a client a couple of days ago, and they basically said, well, hey, our average customer stays with us for about 5 years. Here's how much money they spend each year. So this is how much we can project. And I said, okay, so that's great. So for right now, that's how we can project, our return on investment from some marketing tools that we're using. But one of the things that we're going to want to do also is help you to keep people longer. Okay. And that should always be part of your customer relationship plan, is what can you do to keep people on board as a customer? And that's an entirely different discussion. So the idea of lifetime value is just to be realistic and just say, okay, our average, we want them to stay for 20 years. We want them to stay forever. That's why it's called lifetime. But in reality, our average customers stay with us for 6 years. So year-to-year sales vary widely. Absolutely. And that's why I look at it from a long-term perspective, is that, and you know what? And if you don't have an answer for that, then I'm going to tell you here's how I work with clients. And I say, look, number one, let's take out your top 20%. All All right. We all know the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people represent 80% of your revenue. Okay. So those, we could figure out and say, all right, if we can get somebody into our top 20%, then their average lifetime value is this. But everybody else is this. And so I look at it a couple of ways. One is I will take the top 20% who represent 80% of my income, and I will say, all right, for the last, say, 5 years, 3 to 5 years, here's how much money I generated from that group. All right. And, and let's say it's $1 million, and there are 25 customers who represent that $1 million. So on average, my top 20%, they are worth $400,000 or, $40,000 each. All right. Lifetime value. And so I will use that number as saying, okay, I need to move people into the top 20%. For the most part, though, if we look at, okay, actually, 80% of our customers represent 20% of our sales. So then I'll go down and I'll say, all right, for the last 3 to 5 years, how much total revenue did the 80% of our customers, generate? And we'll say $1 million. But instead of being 25 customers who did that, it was 100 customers who did that. All right. So those people, those 100 to $1 million, they average about $10,000. So I would look at it as a balance between, say, the 10,000 versus the 40,000, and I would always project out from the lower number. That's what I would do. So it's that's how you start. Is you just kind of go back and look at the records, and you look at break it down from that. So I hope that was helpful for you, John. So let's see. I don't see any other questions right now. But of course, I think you all know how to reach me. It's Steve at theadventure.com or Steve Miller at theadventure.com. I will be following up with you after this with the replay. Let me go back number one, here is the URL for the download page right now. You can go there. And then I hope you will join me for the 4 webinars in 4 weeks, but for you guys, and this is a down low thing here, okay? I'm only offering it to you guys, is that you will actually get 5 webinars for the same price of $297. And I hope you join me for that. So other than that, I think we've wrapped this up. I appreciate you joining me here today. I hope that was very helpful. Please, 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 if you have any questions regarding this, or if saying, okay, you're having difficulty with it yourself, please feel free to email me. I am very, very happy to take you through that. I got one more question here I'll answer, and then we're going to rock and roll out of here. Matthew, after they visit your landing page, what would be a good next step in the conversion process? That is up to you. If they come to my landing page, I want them to give me their email. All right, give me their email, and so I will offer them something. I will offer them a lead magnet. I will offer them some type of bonus or something like that. Say, here, if you give me your email address, I will give you this thing of value to you, and it can be a white paper, can be a video, can be a webinar, or anything like that. So, Joan, the secret price for the 5 is the same as the price for the 4. Okay, for you guys, $297. Click on that link right now. Go there and make my wife happy. Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining me. There's my smoking hot wife, Kay, and our killer kid, Kelly. This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. Thanks again for joining me today. Always remember, be uncopyable. Bye.